All right, today we're talking about how to grow a regional media platform, especially in today's dispersed digital media landscape. My guest today is Josh Dunn, and I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I am the host of the show, and every week we get some fascinating CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs. We've had all kinds of companies on here. We've had Netflix and Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's. Go check out the archives because there's lots of great episodes there. And before we get into this interview, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you to run your podcast and content marketing. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, accountability, and full execution. In fact, we invented what some are calling the Wix of B2B podcasting. It's our platform, Podcast Copilot. And, I know from looking at your background, Josh, that you, just like I, know the value of relationships and building relationships with the right people. And that is something that I've done throughout my career. And I love meeting someone new like you here today, who I don't know your backstory, highlighting you and hearing your story. And so we're excited to bring you to the show here today. And anyone who wants to learn more about our company, Rise 25, you can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com to find out about Podcast Copilot. All right. Excited to be here today. This is someone I was told about for a while. And I like to say that I am a local media brat. You've heard of Army brats, Air Force brats. I'm a local media brat because my dad was a journalist when I was growing up. And I also went to journalism camp in high school, which is just as nerdy as it sounds. Editor of my high school newspaper. And so have always been a fan of journalism and the role that it plays. Unfortunately, I think in the last few years, some people have been very derogatory towards the role of journalism, and I have a very different opinion on that. And I also think it's fascinating in this landscape when over the last 20 years, there have been so many small local media companies, newspapers, that sort of thing, magazines that have gone out of business, to see one that is actually surviving and thriving. So that's fascinating. So Josh here is the founder and CEO of Premier Media Group, which he started on September 11, 2001. And has been leading the company for 25 years now, almost 25 years. He's got a number of different publications, including 425, 425 Business, South Sound, and South Sound Business magazines. And these are publications that we're going to be talking about that highlight local businesses and community achievements. And he's a longtime entrepreneur, really excited about entrepreneurship. Josh, such a pleasure to have you here today. And let's start with you, like I, got into entrepreneurship through the lens of trading sports cards, baseball cards, basketball cards. Was this now for me it was like late 80s, like kind of early 90s. Then I got into high school and I got a little bit out of it, but that was really the heyday. And I still have some in my garage, and they're like, I thought they were going to be my retirement plan, and they're like worth less than they were 25 years ago. It's a bummer.
Yeah, interesting. Well, first, John, thanks for the treat today. And yeah, sports cards are interesting. I'm with you. It was mid 80s to early 90s, and I look back. I still have my cards as well, and I'm always looking for a rare card that maybe I forgot that I owned. Certainly a Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
rookie card's always a fun treat. But then you realize in the early 90s, even late 80s, the mass production of sports cards flooded the market. And even today, I think you can buy cases of these cards that are so cheap and
Yeah.
very little value anymore.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. They just flooded the market, became super popular. But you also did other entrepreneurial ventures. So you mowed lawns, leaves, shoveled snow. Talk about what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, I think anything to earn a dollar before I was able to drive anywhere, I was always looking for ways to get a return on my investment, whether it's trading cards or, um, certainly lawn mowing was a big aspect to that, raking leaves, doing yard work wherever I could, pulling weeds, trimming bushes, just the chance to get a return on my time at any time of the day, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, afternoon, evening. I could see quickly early on that was a sweet treat for me to learn about working for other people and working for myself in the same manner.
And you were influenced a bit by your grandfather, who's still around in his 90s. And He was an entrepreneur, or he had his own companies?
Yeah, just growing up, being around grandpa, it was a situation where he was living differently than I was, and clearly was making an impact in our community, serving our community. And you can see early on that there was some influence there, not just a financial influence, but certainly a community impact. I was
What do you mean by he was living differently?
When you look at the people they hang around with, or when you're having a Christmas get together, or when friends are in town, or when you go to the house, they live differently, drive differently, and are involved in community aspects much differently than I was exposed to in my family. So you knew right then and there was something of impact and influence happening.
Like he
Certainly
had more people in his
affluent. Yeah,
community, more affluent. Okay, so
yeah.
but also like a bigger social network. Is that what you mean also?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, socially and making an impact, giving. We would go to a museum and there'd be a plaque there in honor of his name, and there's
Wow.
just you start seeing some of these
Yeah.
bricks being laid somewhere that there was an impact there, and that takes resources to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly the friendship group and the colleagues were impactful into our region.
It's amazing the impact that has. My grandfather, John the First, because I'm John the Third, was didn't have a lot of financial resources, but he'd risen to colonel in the Air Force. And I
Wow.
remember once I went with him. He worked at the Pentagon even after he was retired. He was like civilian working at the Pentagon, and we drove to the Pentagon once because he was taking me there for some reason. And we go through this guard gate, and the guy is there, and he looks down at the car, and he snaps to attention, and he salutes as the car drives by. And I'd never seen something like that before. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, wow, that guy just saluted my grandfather because there was some, I don't know, there was a badge or something or a parking pass that indicated it. And it had such an impact on me to see that sort of thing,
Yeah.
see like the way that others treat, someone in your family.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting because even as a young kid, you pick up on that. There's a difference. There's something respectful, honorable. And your grandfather did something of significance. He served our country, elevated to a very strong level of leadership in our country, and he was honored for that. And you were able to see that live in action. So yeah, some of the
So,
same things on the business side.
yeah, I'm wondering, am I reading into it too much to say that some of the stuff that you do being integrated as a media publication in your communities is kind of a reflection of those lessons that you learned from your grandfather?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a high impact. He's been on my advisory board since the day I started. He's more of a CFO type of a mindset. That is not my gift. Mine is more on the marketing, business development, partnership side. But both of us serving in our community, he was beginning to be on the tail end of his impact and kind of pulled away from business and retired, so to speak. I was in the beginning stages of developing our media company and our community impact. But yeah, just to see philanthropy at work, generational legacy philanthropy, giving back. And I'm passionate about it as well. Like you, I love to serve. I love to give. I want to make a difference in our community, not just for my own family, but to the family members and friends and those that come and visit our community. How can I be a great impact and telling amazing stories? And I guess,
Yeah.
our mission is to be a breath of fresh air. Anything, when you engage our company, everything we do, my expectation is there's something different, special. It's a breath of fresh air and it's a non-polarizing media engagement.
So you started your company, and this is what it says on your bio, September 11th, 2001. How did that timing work out?
Yeah, crazy timing. I had been working for some other publishers, kind of learned the skills of the trade. I had worked for some chambers of commerce, learned about membership and sales and advertising and maps and kind of community impact and just getting ready to build a business plan. And so our first magazine I wanted to start was a wedding and event magazine in our region and put together a business plan. And I went to go I had bought the Starbucks when I was 17 years old for $400, and I ended up using that, which was worth about 30 grand at the time. I used that to borrow against to start the company. I get a logo, I put together the business,
Wait, hold on.
and
Let me wait. Instead of you had like stock, you had $30,000 worth of stock in Starbucks, but you didn't sell it. You borrowed against it to start the company?
yes, yeah,
That's an interesting one. I mean, I would
yeah,
have like, you were what, 21, 22 years old or something at this point?
yeah, Yep, low
What gave you
20s.
that idea?
Well, I wanted to keep the stock, and I still have the stock today, and it's definitely worth over six figures. So it's been a
Wow.
good investment. But yeah, I mean, it's something that my grandfather, even my dad had told me just to buy some stock for your future. And so I had $400 in my savings, and here we are, 6, 7 years later, after 17 years old, looking to start a company. I didn't have any cash necessarily, and that was what I used to borrow against. And you can
Wow.
guess where I borrowed it from,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
The one asset you had. So, so it was in a wedding and events business. That was the idea.
Yep.
But so you have this idea, but then 9/11 happens, which of
Yeah.
course killed the wedding market for a little while.
Yeah, but what's interesting, I think I'm raised a little different. I'm very optimistic, and so I saw this as an opportunity that no matter the season of life, Daddy's going to take care of his baby girl for a wedding. And yeah, the market was challenged with 9/11, but you still need a wedding. You're still going to get married. And so you still need the resources, the vendors, the storytelling, the photos, the videos. And so I just use that. I think, John, I knocked on 600 businesses, just knocked on their doors trying to pitch this idea and end up having about 60 to 70 folks that said, yeah, Josh, I like your idea. There's nothing here at the time. And let's do it. And
Yeah.
so that was the seed. I hustle. I'm not afraid to hustle and knock on doors.
And creating a new media publication is it's like starting a marketplace in the sense that there's different sides to it. If you don't have any readers or viewers or users, then no advertiser's going to show up. So what did you start first? And then you have to create the content, of course. So there's so many different
Yeah.
things you have to do. So what did you focus on first?
Yeah. I mean, first is you have to sell the vision and craft the vision. And yes, there was no proven product yet. All I had was a mock-up, a cover, a vision, a media kit, a story to tell. And I think I'm pretty accomplished at telling good stories and backing it up. And yeah, it was you create sales, you create promises, you create assurance, and you got to go back it up.
Mm.
And we did back it up and built that brand up with a wedding show and events and ended up selling it in 2006 to brand. And I think, John, what's ironic is just 2 weeks ago, I had coffee with the second owner of that brand, South
Yeah.
Sound Wedding and Event. It's still in existence
Wow.
and it's been sold over twice.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's cool. It shows some lasting legacy there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
stuck. Something
And
stuck.
so now you are more focused on business and real estate, correct?
Yeah, I think I'm just looking for different markets, maybe that are a little bit more opportunistic beyond a hyper local area, looking more regional type focus. So we're in the business magazine space, we're in city regional space. 4 years ago, right? No, 3 years ago, right in the middle of COVID, we went and bought a travel magazine that had been around since the 80s. So yeah, we're just looking for different markets to position ourselves to make an impact.
All right, let's go through that decision. So COVID's going on, no one's traveling,
Nope.
and you're like, let's buy a travel magazine.
Yeah, I think what I did, COVID caught us off guard, certainly, and it really broke in our community coming out of Asia, right in the
That's
Pacific
right.
Northwest was the
It
first
did.
case.
Yeah.
And we quickly, I mean, I went hardcore, looked at every line item, where can we cut, and weather a major potential storm. And I read everything I could on how to handle chaos. And I remember Churchill has this amazing quote, like, never let a good chaos go to waste.
Hmm.
And I thought, man, I'm going to do everything I can to stay alive. Our sales were in half, and people aren't advertising as much. But we picked up new audiences, and there's new little verticals of communication that had to be communicated in that season. And we just hunkered down, saved our money. And right in the middle of COVID, I had a colleague that was in the travel space, and they were in deep soup. They were struggling, and I made a run at it. I thought, man, this is the time to acquire something when it's been hit pretty hard. There's some headwinds there.
So
And
what did you see in that asset in acquiring that during that time? You just kind of have like positive vibes that you felt like this would eventually would get through this, and people would be then there'd be a yearning to travel again, and we'd be able to turn this around?
Yeah, by the time we actually acquired it, the pendulum had already shifted towards local travel, weekend travel. You can start seeing when lockdowns were being lifted, there was a high demand. So just as we're negotiating a deal, sales had already doubled since the down low of the 22, 21, 22 curve of COVID. But yeah, I had been following the brand very closely. I had a colleague that was running it and had done very well with it. So I was very in tune to the brand, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and where we could come alongside and leverage scale. So we use scale with our systems and process and people, relationships, and I saw that as a chance to get accelerated growth.
And I imagine you have certain teams, like an advertising sales team, that work across different publications. So is that one example of a way you
Yeah.
make it work?
Yeah, and with the acquisition, there was two incredible rock star sales executives. They're currently with us. There's an amazing editor in chief that we've known for 25 years. There was incredible designers. So when we brought that brand in house, we acquired the talent to go with it, and it was set, it was anchored, and then man, John, we doubled that thing up in 18 months.
How
Just
did
ran it
you
up.
How did you, when you acquired that company, that sounds like a lot of value was in this human capital, these people. How did you ensure that they didn't jump ship? Did you like go call them up immediately, or what did you
Oh
do?
yeah. As soon as the deal was done, I personally met with them and wanted to find out what their vision, their goals are. They were well aware of who we are. They're well aware of our style. And there's also some things that they wanted to see change. And I could be that change agent for them when it comes to loving them, serving them, accommodating them, honoring them, respecting them, praising them. So yeah, they're still with us today and they're part of our growth
Did it
team.
take a while though for you to convince them? Because everyone's normally apprehensive at first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm pretty confident that they would love our culture. And I use our culture, use our colleagues that they know in the industry. And I mean, our team, we have just a great team that's been with us for a long time. So there's
Yeah.
trust, there's loyalty. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be apprehension for sure, but as long as I can keep proving value and trust and loving them, serving them, and surprise and delight them,
Yeah.
that's been a overwhelming success with this talent.
So I get the sense that you're a bit of a contrarian. You drop out of college. You go into local media at a time when a lot of companies have fled from that area and a lot of businesses have gone out of business. What I want to ask you is, has there ever been a time where you have had your faith shaken, where you've doubted it, where you've doubted yourself, where you've been like, ah, man, I don't know if I can go on in this anymore, given the kind of macroeconomic winds that have been against local media publications?
Yeah, it's very normal feeling. I know to me, John, I think it's every 2 or 3 years, you just start hitting some headwinds. You start seeing some constraints on sales, constraints on the trends, or headwinds in certain verticals, certain markets. Yeah, I mean, you look at 9/11, you look at the downturn of the housing crisis in '06 to '09, and you look at certainly COVID wrecked us pretty good. But I know that I have to take care of my mind and my spirit, and my body. And if I can focus on trying to keep that strong and be surrounded with amazing entrepreneurs and amazing folks that I can have the healthy conversation of, I'm struggling, I feel hopeless, I'm overwhelmed. It's a safe place, your spouse and folks in your life that you can be honest and truthful, and then they can help pick you up when you know you can't do it today,
Yeah, are
right?
there particular communities that you've utilized for that, for of other entrepreneurs or other support networks?
I mean, mostly they're communities that I've created, whether it's a band of brothers, whether it's an advisory board, a CEO roundtable. Yeah, all of
Yeah,
that for
yeah.
sure. I'm a
We
big
have
fan.
an interesting local publication in my community, and to give you context, very small community, 9,000, two towns kind of together, about 9,000, maybe 12,000 residents, something like that. And there's a newspaper that's been around for, I don't know, 40 years or something like that. They have a great editor and they've actually won national awards. And it's interesting to see them, like, they've experimented with like sharing content on Nextdoor, which in some ways could be viewed as like a threat because some people
Yeah.
get their news from there. But they have a very forward-thinking editor who's utilized that. So I want to ask you a little bit about like new media platforms that could be a threat or that could be a benefit to you. One of them might be like podcasting, like we're doing here
Yeah.
today, or social
Yeah.
media platforms, or Nextdoor. What's your view towards those other like channels?
Yeah. I mean, incredible question because those channels are changing every week, I feel like. And I love to help other folks be successful. I also love how can we elevate our brand? How can I elevate our thought leadership around that? So I embrace collab, partnerships, other platforms all day long. Now, if the platforms don't treat us with respect or they're stealing and not crediting, that's another issue. But we have great relationships with media partners, whether they're national NBC affiliates, CBS affiliates, radio partnerships, content, RSS feeds. In fact, it's funny you mentioned Nextdoor. They just approached us about using our content on some of their platforms. And yeah, I'm open to explore all of it. The
Is
one
that
thing
like a licensing kind of arrangement, or how
Yeah, we're
does that
still
work?
trying to figure it out, but they're
Okay.
looking for local content. And even our large media Seattle broadcast affiliates, they're so stretched financially that they don't have a lot of local great content anymore
Hmm.
that's inspiring or encouraging. So they're loving pulling our RSS feeds and working with our editorial team to pull in local. We do a Northwest Idea House every year. They can't wait to shoot it, to write it, they want local great content. And so we're finding this little sweet spot working with radio and TV partners. The other thing too, you have your social media platforms. You have to be careful around those. Those algorithms are changing. And as long as I get to own and lead our core brand, so we own our website, we own our e-newsletter platform, and we own our media, as long as we own it, we're a guiding light. I'm okay with that, leveraging it on other platforms. But if we start seeing these other platforms as being the new savior to gaining audience or gaining growth, we're in deep soup. And you see a lot of our
Right.
colleagues have done that. They've leveraged themselves so far, there's nothing left that they own anymore.
Right. And there's, it's interesting because OpenAI has, I believe they've done some licensing deals with the Associated Press and with the New
Yep.
York Times. Do you see that, setting the stage for then them doing licensing deals with more regional and local publications as well? Or how do you see that playing out for you?
It's a big question because, we're allowing those bots to be on our sites to scrub data. We felt that we're better off joining them than blocking them. At the same time, we want credit. That doesn't always happen. Licensing is something that I think will eventually happen on a more regional, smaller media companies at some point. But if we just stay focused on being great at human generated content and partner with AI to be a steward of technology that can take our human content, make it superhuman, I'm okay with that. But our value right now boldly is everywhere I talk, everywhere we communicate, we create a human generated logo. Like we're investing in hundreds of freelancer writers, not AI bots. We have editorial staff, we have staff writers, editors. We invest in humans first and foremost.
Where do
Where's this
you,
go? Where's this go? I don't know, but I do
yeah.
know that AI has some nice complementary tools that we're exploring to make it superhuman.
Yeah, so where do you enable or utilize AI, right? I mean, is it a fact checker? Is it an editor? Is it making sure that your articles are compliant with AP style, which is something that it could do very quickly? Is it over the line for you to like have one of your reporters go and interview someone, do an hour-long interview, and then take the transcript and have AI turn it into an article? Is that like over the line? Like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's moving a little bit, but we're very focused on making sure human generated is first and foremost. Now we'll use Otter AI to capture content in a
An
time.
AI transcription tool. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great tool.
Yeah.
Well, Copilot with Microsoft Chat. You're looking for a headline. You're stumped on some headlines. You just wrote a great story. You interviewed a
Right.
CEO looking for a good headline. I have no problem with our team and freelancers looking for tools to enhance or to help facilitate a great story, but it's not going to write it for you. We're not
Yeah.
going to do an interview with a CEO with a bot or an
Right.
AI generator, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's changing though, John. It's interesting.
I mean,
It
it's
changed
changing every
fast.
day, right? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And I'm looking at one of your websites here, 425business.com. And we've got an events tab on here. You mentioned that events were early on in kind of the roadmap. What role does events play now in 2025 after COVID? Is that still a part of the model?
For sure. Yeah, human engagement is at an all-time high. The key we have to be very careful with is everybody wants to be in the event space. And so now you're having event exhaustion again after it's only been a couple of years having events.
Yeah.
Now we have them. So we have to be careful to make sure they're extraordinarily top performing, high engagement, great return on time investment. So yeah, events is a big piece.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, in fact, so much we have a travel and words conference, so we're all about honoring travel writers. So we throw a conference for them and give them 30 different destination speed dates so they can have access to pitch and to tell stories all across the Pacific Northwest. So generated
Interesting.
content by humans and events, high CEO roundtables, just to have a space with 10, 20 leaders to have a quiet space to talk through all these headwinds that we're facing and where's our economy going, where's labor, and where's this tariff, footprint look like for our organizations right now. So
Yeah.
those are high value meetups.
Yeah. And those are things that can't be replaced by bots, can't be replaced by humans. We're always going to want human connection like this, even if we have AI in our lives. And so that's
Exactly.
something that if it's part of your business, then it's not going to be, you know, going to be displaced anytime soon.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree.
I wanted to ask, you have a new media platform that's going to be coming out, Southwest Travel Life.
Yep.
It's across 5 different states, regional travel magazine and digital platform. How do you look at like a new area to go into?
Yeah, this is something that's it's not like I'm starting a new wedding magazine in a local, hyper local region. This is a big get, but we're using the Northwest travel model that's been proven for 30 years, 5 states in Canada. We feel like there's a market in the Southwest region. And in our due diligence, we don't see anything that really is being done very well in that regional space. Each state, each city has great journalism, but where is that when it comes to a travel engagement from Albuquerque to San Diego or Vegas to El Paso, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's something there. Well, I do know there's something there, and I'm investing into that market. And I just believe I believe in you do a great brand, great editorial, work on, impactful distribution, you will attract great partners. We'll have
It
print, we'll have website, e-newsletter, social media, we'll have some events. I believe in this space quite a bit. I think it's
yeah.
going to be a good opportunity.
And you mentioned distribution. What is the ideal distribution today? Is it print? Is it e-newsletter? So it's an email basically people get? Is it a website? I guess 25 years ago, it was easy to understand what distribution was. It was a physical magazine, but
Yeah,
increasingly that is changing. So what is it exactly now?
it's all of the above.
All of
It's
it.
Yeah, it's requiring talent and time and finances on every one of those platforms.
Mm,
Print is still dominant anchoring brand, but it's highly complementary digital assets that we own is where we have control. We build it. It's all about audience development, right?
yeah.
Just getting a really good traction on e-newsletters so you communicate well, you deliver with excellence, a website, landing pages and guides and just beautiful editorial on travel to Grand Canyon, for example. And then you use social platform or other media outlets to drive traffic to the ones that you own.
Yeah.
we believe in feeding all those platforms
By
and
the
print,
way, I feel like
not
I'm
dead.
jumping around a little bit here, but it's
Yeah.
just because there's so many different things you're involved in that I'm curious about. So, another question I have is about you've acquired a couple platforms, which is or publications, historic publications, which is different from building one from scratch. How do you know when you acquire one of these existing longtime publications that you can bring it into the 21st century?
Yeah, and maybe that's assuming it wasn't the 21st century, but I do think
Okay,
it was.
but yeah, so maybe it
Yeah.
already had,
Yeah.
developed some of these things, but I imagine you have some vision for ways in which you can, create greater digital distribution or something like that.
Yeah, I believe in our team and I believe that we can enhance what was already there. We've already increased print distribution, we've increased subscribers in print, we've increased web traffic, e-newsletter signups, social media. We're feeding all those platforms. I trust that we can do that well. Now, it's unproven. Are they going to come? Even with this new brand, will they come? I'm betting on it, but it's unproven.
Yeah.
However, I trust us. I trust our quality. I trust the excellence of how we do it. It's been done already, and I'm pretty sure we can do it again.
Yeah, yeah. I know that one of the things you're really interested in is leadership and also cultivating a community of you have many freelance journalists who contribute to your publications. I've always been a writer. In fact, my first job after college was working first real job was working in the Clinton White House as a writer in presidential letters and messages. And my joke to people now is that it's probably ChatGPT, which is serious, right? And how, I imagine there are people that are leaving this profession. You know, what do you have to say for people that are still passionate about writing that want to go into this industry that is really experiencing even more disruption than it had over the last
Yeah.
25 years, and it already experienced a ton of disruption?
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing a little bit myself, and it's a tough space. You have digital competition trying to beat you out. There's not a lot of money being made in journalism, unfortunately.
No, it's the kind of the price has gone down and down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's sad, and we try to pay fairly. I'm not going to pay over the top because I won't be in business, but we do pay fairly. We pay every journalist on time. That's one big thing a lot of our colleagues have failed to do. But if they can build great content and sell it over and over, or sell their chops over and over and build their own influential platform, their own book, their own guide, they can author something that has a little more significance. How can I promote their book for them? How can I promote their channel or their platform? So we are always looking for ways. They've been a tremendous blessing to our organization. How can we honor them, not just paying for their services, but how can we honor them in their profession? And there are great universities cranking out some beautiful, talented, new, bright minds around storytelling. It is a tough space though, John. It's
Yeah.
the the path forward is not easy, but there's new verticals constantly evolving. Look at 1440, there's an email platform, or Morning Brew is an email platform.
Yeah, or
They
Substack or
have
something. Yeah.
great, talented writers that those brands are suddenly just a small platform, now a big platform, and they're highly valued.
Yeah, it's an interesting model because, for example, my best friend growing up in high school, his dad was an investigative journalist for the LA Times, and the LA Times could afford to pay for him to work on an article for 6 months and then
Right.
publish this big expose that would get a ton of attention. Now that model has really largely gone away. However, there's other platforms like Twitter, X, stuff like that,
Yeah.
YouTube, where people can build their own platform around different things that people are interested in. And
Yeah.
in some ways, some of, I haven't, I'm not an academic on this, but, if the goal is for information to get out, for knowledge to get out, I mean, there's more knowledge than ever now. So in some ways, there's been other opportunities for writers and for people that are curating and gathering information for people that are interested in a specific area.
Yeah. It's funny you mention that because I know what we need, what we want is good content, but how can I help them? And so we have this new mission. We want to include their LinkedIn bio on their byline? How can we get a professional photo for their byline? They have a new book, or what's their Twitter handle? Things like that where I'm thinking, wow, this is a good way where we can help build their channel and build their voice. And we're going to be one of maybe 25 companies that they freelance for,
Yeah.
right? Or if you
Yeah.
want to make a handsome income, average wage, guaranteed, so to speak, and be a staff writer, staff editor, there's a decent lifestyle with that. It's not over the top, but you do have some level of being honored for your talent. That's a great platform as well.
Yeah, yeah. Josh, I think I could talk to you all day long, but in the interest of in the interest of time, I think we've given people enough of a teaser so they can go check out some of the stuff that you do. But before I wrap up, I want to ask my gratitude question. So I'm a big fan of practicing gratitude and also giving my guests a little bit of space at the end here to acknowledge, especially peers or contemporaries or mentors who've been there for them. You mentioned your grandfather. I imagine there are others. Who would you want to acknowledge?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for this chance to just share, my story. And like you, gratitude. There's we to go forward, we have to be grateful for what we have and grateful to those around us. And my grandfather, George Pessimer, by far, has been on my advisory board, a big fan. My parents for sure, my wife most importantly. Additionally, there's great colleagues like Craig Dickens. He's been on my advisory board and has helped me with systems and process. He's an Excel nerd. He sees things differently, has a different lens. So another brother of Kristen Askey, he's just a big vision guy. So yeah, there's been a lot of amazing people to this day that rally around my simple mind that just loves people, loves journalism, loves media, and telling great stories. So grateful for
Yeah.
you, John. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing this. And to your audience, I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I mean, I'm a bit of a nerd about this, but just having grown up or, what put food on the table for me when I was growing up was journalism. Was my father was a local journalist, and without them, we don't know what's going on. So I
Right.
think it's such an important role to play in society. So I appreciate that you have found a way to evolve your platforms to make them still viable in today's day and age. Josh, where can people go to learn more about you and Premier Media Group?
Yeah, I'd say premiermedia.net is a good landing page for the organization. And feel free to look me up on LinkedIn as well. It's a good platform for business development and leadership. So here to serve, here to help wherever we can.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.